Speaking of messages, we want to find out what the plays for the presidency are up to this week. Our weekly segment is something we get into with Alan Kelly. Alan is the CEO of Playmaker Systems in Bethesda, Maryland, developer of the periodic table of politics, if you will. The Elements of Influence is the book that he wrote. The website is plays2run.com, Plays, the numeral 2run.com. I'll have to make sure. We tweet that at Morning Briefing, by the way, and Alan tweets too. But I want to mention that because if you miss it, go to our Facebook page because we put up the link so you'll be able to find it. Welcome, as always, Alan.
Good morning.
Thank you for being here. We are looking at this campaign, and a week ago you were on with me as we saw the introduction of Paul Ryan as the vice presidential candidate with Mitt Romney. And
it was fast radio. I was running from garbage trucks as they were trying to find a quiet place to talk to the people at SiriusXM.
Where were you hanging out on a Saturday?
I was in Bethesda, but the garbage trucks, I was ready. The garbage trucks came by and boom. And
I thought you were like trolling for something.
No, no, it's not dumpster diving.
All right, there you go. Just wanted to make sure. All right. First of all, the introduction, it was kind of interesting. It was by the USS Wisconsin. It turned out to be luck that happened because the original announcement was scheduled for Friday, and it was going to be taking place. But the memorial service for the victims of the terrible shooting at the Sikh temple took place on Friday. Paul Ryan attended. It was in his district in Wisconsin, and of course, it would have been inappropriate to do it that day. So it was on Saturday. The Wisconsin turned out to be a bit of luck, and it turned out pretty well. But you characterize this, and again, we put this in the context of the plays for the presidency, as a screen. Now, for people who don't know, what is a screen?
We need a name, so we've come up with a name called a screen for a play that I guess you might call it the associate, or a play where you try to sidle up to or use in some way a prop or some object, inanimate or active or otherwise, which allows you to enlarge your message or your platform or the thing that you stand for. So when Martin Luther King stands before the Abraham Lincoln Memorial, he is saying a lot more than simply, I have a dream. He's connecting the two and making the whole theme of his speech much bigger and much more obvious. So as Mitt Romney then has the backdrop of the USS Wisconsin, that's his attempt to use the symbolism of a great battleship, of
so it's not like
a great warrior to attach to his new pick.
So it's not like a screenplay in like sports where you're blocking somebody out of the way. It's rather more like a movie screen where you're using it as a backdrop.
It can be, actually, to some extent. You can use a screen to as interference or something to get around. So you can stand in front of it, you can stand in back of it. Either way, what you're trying to do is to use something out there that is in a marketplace proper. This could be any sort of marketplace that helps you to move where you want to move, either to associate with it or maybe to hide behind it. So for better or for worse, we call the play a screen. And it's very, very common, especially in advertising, because it is really the play of using symbols generally for effect.
The Mitt Romney play also is the recast. He takes out Paul Ryan, the chair of the House Budget Committee, as the financial fix-it guy, as you write, and uses that as a spin on what Paul Ryan really is seen as by some, which is the obstructionist. He's part of the Republican get in the way of the president.
That's right. So he stands up in front of the USS Wisconsin, which is decommissioned, but we won't get into that. And he runs a play we call it a recast, which is simply to morph, which is to take a set of facts and order them in the way that you want to have them ordered. So what he wants to have known about Paul Ryan, first and foremost, is this is a fix-it guy. This is a guy who understands my understanding and my expertise in economics. We are the fix-it team. So that's how he sort of sets the positioning for his pick. He uses a screen, he runs a recast, and we are off to the races.
Unfortunately for Mitt Romney, you say the Team Axelrod is ready because they were looking at the potential nominees for vice president. They had Rob Portman in mind, I'm sure, Tim Pawlenty, and Paul Ryan. Maybe not on the short list for everybody, but he was on most people's list. And when you're a campaign, you got to be prepared. So they were at least 5 or 6 deep. They had all their I'd never heard you refer to this play before, though, and I remember it from Hunt for Red October, the Crazy Ivan.
one ping only.
That's
yeah.
Vasily.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, there has to be a name, and so we use the name Crazy Ivan for a play where you essentially rush a pursuant And the best analogy or thing I could think of, in fact, almost the only thing I could think of really to describe that idea was, in fact, from the book Hunt for Red October. So, yeah, I read that. And, yeah, I'm into Cold War, nuclear, submarine warfare and all that. But it is when you are being cornered, when someone really kind of has you, they're tailing you, instead of continuing to be tailed, you run right at them. So you don't necessarily try to stop the engagement, but you try to hasten it. So I think actually what Axelrod and company did was to run the play The Crazy Ivan. They said, oh, we're not afraid of Ryan. We're going to in fact go right at this. And so instead of trying to say, well, he's just a young pup, he doesn't really quite have all the credentials, oh, this is another Sarah Palin, they could have run all sorts of plays like that. They then said, oh yeah, he is good. Oh yeah, in fact, he's an expert. And in fact, and he's actually a really nice guy. So they went straight at him, but
family man.
Oh, very good family man. So,
but Brutus is an honorable man.
Yeah, but you could tell what they're lining up to do was to portray him really as a poster boy for the play they really want to run, and that's to label him a Medicare killer. Because they figure that is a, for better or for worse, and we will find out, they figure that is an issue that they can probably win on as well. So they happily go with that. They run right at their pursuer, and I think actually they had a lot of success doing that.
While Ryan stumps solo in Midwest, Obama shadows the rookie campaigning nearby in Dubuque, the president drafts the congressman. And we've talked about this before. This is similar to those who follow sports. You get your car behind somebody else. You've actually probably noticed it if you've ever been behind an 18-wheeler and you notice that your car actually goes right behind it and you kind of get sucked along without even having to push too hard on the accelerator. But he basically sits behind and waits for the right moment and then uses that to just sort of boomerang around.
Yeah, they left Ryan alone in the Midwest while Romney went down to talk to the Medicare lovers in Florida, to be oversimplistic. And I thought, and once again, we've got Barack Obama running his signature preemptive plays. Because here's a guy, he's not afraid to sort of roll back or peel away the things which expose a sort of a ticking rhetorical bomb. He is not afraid to. Let me see if I've got this right. He's not afraid to talk about Obamacare now, and I think this is brilliant. He says, I like the term Obamacare. Sure. I'm flattered by it because I care, because it appeals to my sensibilities. In other words, it is a bit like a Crazy Ivan. He's going right at the issue so that he can control the rate of its burn, and they can't. So I thought that was very, very smart. And so, he's dignifying his rival. You don't see that often happen. He's drafting, and he's staying very, very close. And he's making sure that they are defining the Ryan pick as the Medicare killer pick, and the Romney presidency as not about fixing the economy, but as debating over Medicare.
Well, the one thing I think you made a great point here, and this is if you go to placetorun.com, you can see this, but you say that the VP pick has faltered, and much to the chagrin of hand-wringing GOP elders. Ryan's no Sarah Palin, they're whispering, but he's just as risky. Ace playmaker John Koval says Team Obama is using Ryan as a foil to continue talking about anything but its own shortcomings.
Yeah, I think that's possible too. My colleague John Koval has a very good idea here that they may see the Medicare thing as a great way of creating a distraction vice, so they can talk about something they win, so they don't have to talk about what they don't want to have to talk about. So, we had an interesting game of sort of tennis or badminton or ping pong, of back and forth and back and forth. And it seemed to me, at least by this method of deconstruction of the plays, that Obama bested him, because Obama was, well, for a couple of reasons. One, I don't think the Romney camp was really ready for the rebuttals. I don't really think they simulated rebuttals. I don't think they did war games. And I'm telling you, in communications, this needs to start to happen. Just like it does in airlines, just like it does in war, you have to start gaming out, not just simply what you're going to say, but what they're going to say, and then what you'll say again. You have to go at least three plays deep. So I think they weren't really ready, and I think that they really underestimate the Democrats or Barack Obama's inclination to expose or talk about what they might think he wouldn't want to talk about. He will, so he can control the debate on his terms. He's very, very good at that.
Yeah, they're all trying to do a lot of controlling these days. You know what else is interesting, and this came up yesterday on the press pool with Julie Mason. A couple of times this has come up, but I remember yesterday too, is the agility of both of these campaigns. I mean, frankly, the fact that they have to respond to things very quickly, and it may not be that they always do it expertly, but they're doing it very quickly. Emails, tweets, I mean, things are going out almost immediately. The cycle, the speed with which people are having to respond to criticisms, complaints, etc., has accelerated so much, even in these past 4 years. It's stunning. It's stunning to see.
I agree with that. Was Julie said that?
Yeah, well, it was on the show. I'm not sure if it was. She's made that observation before, but other people are making that observation on the show yesterday too.
But here's the difference. It's not necessarily the speed with which you act to create that reduced to what I call time to influence. It's also the plays you run.
Absolutely.
And
no question about it.
One of the things we're seeing now with 12 weeks to go and having looked at this for about 20 is that the Obama campaign has what I would call a very broad signature. We can look at the plays that they run and we can see a very broad distribution across the 24 that we know of. And we can also, and then we do the same sort of protocol, if you will, and look at the Romney campaign, and theirs is much more narrow. Now, does that mean that Mitt is less capable or he's more focused? I don't necessarily know, but he is dealing with somebody. You
spin that so nicely, by the way.
But no, I really believe that. I think there's a lot to be said about discipline because actually, in a way, the fewer plays you run, theoretically, the higher the command and control that you will have to run your campaign. And actually, while
simple is always better.
Simple is always better. And lately, it's Barack Obama who's giving the clinics on play calling. But I think historically speaking, it has been the Republicans because they are just so much more disciplined.
We'll see how it turns out. Always great. Plays2run.com. People always email and tweet about that. What was that guy who was on there? It's Alan Kelly. It's plays2run.com if you want to see it. And we talk about the plays for the presidency every Friday. Thanks as always. Have a great weekend.
Thanks for having me.